Hello and welcome to the Monday Agenda. Today we are looking onto the bilateral relationship between Tanzania and India, and as usual, I'm most privileged to have the presence with us at the program, the High Commissioner of India, His Excellency Sandeep Sarya. Please tell us, for over 55 years now, do you think Tanzania, with the aid that is receiving, the support that is receiving, development agenda that you have for Tanzania, do you think we are making any progress?
Yeah, in terms of the relationship, there is huge amount of progress. Especially in 60s and 70s, there was a lot of attention to the agenda of decolonization, the agenda of South-South cooperation, the agenda of non-aligned movement, and the struggle around the world for maybe greater freedom and peace and security, etc. So I think lots of countries were trying to maybe find a space for themselves and trying to relocate themselves and identify and do a little bit of their work. But I think maybe perhaps in 80s or 90s is when really the economic dimension of national development assumed greater importance in various countries, and that's how bilateral relationships also it assumed greater primacy. Okay. But India-Tanzania relationship of course had these extra dimensions, including the developmental dimension, and one of the very interesting projects I think of 1970s is when at that time Mwalimu Nyerere and Mrs. Indira Gandhi, the Prime Minister of India, yes, they spoke about Songo gas fields. Yes. And Mwalimu Nyerere said that they were looking for a little more of expertise, and India's Oil and Gas Natural Commission, ONGC, they had done some exploration in Bombay High, which is in the offshore in the ocean, and they had done huge discoveries in 60s. Okay. So they had that expertise, and I think after the leadership talked, and we had a team of about 4 Indian engineers who were deployed at Songo.
That being one probably of the earlier exploration, and have there been any other work ties between Tanzania and India in terms of other exploration, other activities in different development agenda in Tanzania?
So as part of the development agenda in Tanzania, I think we look at 3-4 sectors in which I think India and Tanzania's cooperation is very, very strong. Okay. And I think one of the leading sectors is water sector. No, it is in terms of the government's participation in trying to do projects. And I think for that also the foundation was made during the time of Mwalimu Nyerere, because I don't know if you are aware of, in 80s there were about 20 to 30 engineers going to study civil engineering with focus on water to India. Okay. And that was a joint project of the two governments, and including the former permanent secretary for water, he had studied for 5 years in India. So that continued for about 5-7 years. Okay. Every year so there are hundreds and hundreds of water engineers in Tanzania are trained in India. Okay. But what it is translating into now are these water supply projects which India is doing through financing from the Exim Bank of India. Okay. And yes, the first successful example was the completion and inauguration of the project from Upper Ruvu River, yes, near Mlandezi. Yes. To bring water into Dar es Salaam.
Water. Yeah. Yes, that's the one we're using in Dar es Salaam.
Absolutely.
Okay, so that was partly done by you.
It was 100% Indian project. Okay. It was financed by the Exim Bank of India.
Okay.
And executed by Indian companies under a government-to-government arrangement. Excellent. Which was signed some years back. So that was done over a period of 2 years, and we believe that 1 million people in Dar es Salaam, yes, in the localities of Kibaha and Kibamba, yes, are receiving water from them.
But now Dar es Salaam has a population of about 6.5. Are we looking onto that number now? The scope for the pipeline was for 1 million consumers.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
So there is already existing water supply. It is not like there was no water at that time. It was just to expand the water supply. And I think there is another project which is going on, I think from Lower Ruvu River and also Wami River, etc. And I think Indian companies are also involved in part of those projects, including from Chalinze into localities in the north of Tanzania on Dar es Salaam. The second big water project which we are doing, and it was about $100 million project which was completed at that time. That was the financing for the project. Okay. The second big project which is underway is to bring Lake Victoria water to the town of Tabora. Yes. And that is about 30% complete as of today. And we hope that in the beginning of 2020 that pipeline will be fully done.
In Tabora.
Correct.
So we are fetching the water from Lake Victoria.
Correct.
all the way to Tabora.
Absolutely.
Excellent.
And
And that is done by
under
again
financing from the Exim Bank of India,
Okay.
and executed by Indian companies under a government to government arrangement.
yes.
This 250-270 kilometer pipeline also covers the town of Nazega.
Yes.
It covers the town of Igunga,
Uh-huh.
and it covers about 90 villages on the way.
Okay.
So
okay.
it is basically a water pipeline with reservoirs at various places, various
Okay.
facilities for pumping, etc., so that water has enough pressure.
Okay.
And it includes distribution within the city of Tabora, within the city of Nazega and Igunga.
And how much does the whole project cost?
The cost is US dollar 268 million. And when we were exploring the new project, I think 3 months back we signed another agreement between the two governments, and
Yes.
this is another kind of a soft credit from the Exim Bank of India. This is
Okay.
for water supply around 20 towns across Tanzania. So this
Okay,
will also
okay,
be a
okay.
huge project of $500 million, which will
Okay.
be right now it is at the stage of preparation of a detailed project report, and we hope that next year we should do tendering, etc., and construction should start.
Okay.
And then I think around 20 towns in the city, in the country will be receiving water from which is, I think, done by the government to government cooperation between the two sides. So that's a huge area. A lot is happening. There are other dimensions of also training is still going on of water engineers under the same program, etc.
Okay. Okay.
But then we have done other projects which are more in the nature of small scale grant projects. They are there in the area of healthcare, in the area of education and things like that. For
Okay.
example, we set up this ICT center
Okay.
at Nelson Mandela African Institute of Science and Technology in Arusha.
Okay.
So this was completed about a year back,
Uh-huh.
and this center will enable master's degree courses
Okay.
in network security and mobile computing.
Okay.
So
Has that started? I know you've completed, but have the students started using the facility?
The Nelson Mandela Institute told us that the first
Right.
admissions will be happening around December, January in the coming months.
This year. Okay. Very good.
So there is a first cancer treatment facility beyond Dar es
Dar
Salaam
es
is
Salaam,
done
absolutely.
by Indian assistance. It was a
Excellent.
grant project, and that
Okay.
machine I visited, and I was very impressed with hundreds of people receiving cancer pain treatment there.
Okay.
We have done a little bit of supplies of medicines of various kinds. We have done supplies of maths and science book for secondary school form 4, 5, 6, and also we have a range of projects which are either in the nature of grant projects by Government of India. Training, etc., is a bigger subject, which is, I think, about 600 people travel to India every year for
Yes,
training courses, including.
absolutely. Let's look onto these particular two sectors because they touch very many people, and especially the younger generation. Of course, medical touches everybody. The facility that you've installed at the Nelson Mandela in Arusha, would it be able to facilitate some of the trainings from the universities in India so that students from the Nelson Mandela may not necessarily need to travel all the way to India, but through the facility be able to connect with lecturers from some universities in India, so that probably the same could be duplicated in other universities here in Tanzania?
Yeah. I must say that this is the second center. The first, which is already functioning, is an IT center set up by India in 2011, 8 years ago,
Okay.
in Dar es Salaam Institute of Technology.
DIT.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And DIT, I think there are basically a supercomputing facility for doing research, which DIT told us is being used by like meteorological agency and several other departments are
Okay.
coming there because it is a fast processing computer for lots of their research work. But it has several classrooms which are also established as part of that program, and I think hundreds of students are regularly studying courses in bachelor's and master's degree courses in IT.
Okay.
So the Nelson Mandela Institute, which has been set up, also enables these master's degree courses, so which means students can actually study. And our participation in not just in setting up the center, but it also involves preparation of course material for the education, and we'll have trainers from India who will be based in Arusha for the first 2 years to conduct these courses.
All right.
So it will be not just the equipment part of it, but it will come in with all kinds of, and I think our advances in IT field are very well known.
Absolutely.
We
Absolutely.
are considered as, I think, one of the important countries in the world, and therefore what will be brought in as part of this cooperation will be really up to date and technology which is of day-to-day relevance and which is delivering huge results in India and around the world through
Absolutely.
our software.
Education, that I can say checked, but I wish to see more of that in more universities,
Yeah.
so that we do not have to have visiting lecturers all the way from.
Allow me to share our new project.
Please,
And
please.
this was mentioned, Dr. Mahiga was in India last week.
Okay.
And during the joint commission meeting which took place, we informed about our tele-education facility which we are going to launch. And it will basically be linking Indian universities with universities in Tanzania. And University of Dar es Salaam, already we have initiated some discussion, and we are looking at 3 or 4 other universities. So it will be a web-based learning facility which will be kind of set up by India. So students who are studying in various universities, I think we are looking at 4 to 5 partner universities in Tanzania. They will be linked to about 5 universities in India, and the students will have the advantage of attending courses from there, and also which will feed into, I think, leading to a dual degree also while they are studying, say, at UDSM or one of the identified university. Plus they have a parallel degree also from an Indian university as part of this tele-education program, which a small module was already introduced and is functioning at UDSM.
Many people go to India for medical reasons. Very many. I cannot ask for the number, but I know very many people go to India. I was one of the lucky few to actually visit Apollo recently, and I saw the number of people from left, right, and center in the world. And I believe people go to hospitals like such because of the credibility and because they get what exactly they're looking for. We are looking on to tele-education, but we also have telemedicine, whereby similar setup could be done with our hospitals in Tanzania, connecting or linking with doctors and hospitals in India. Would you also consider that as one of the ways to reduce the burden of having to transport a patient, and then someone has to accompany that patient, and the cost of travel, etc., whereby we could bridge this through telemedicine as well?
Yeah.
Do you have such plans?
Absolutely. I think that was the other link of the same, or other node of the same project. We call it tele-education and telemedicine project. So the other thing is to link. We will identify 4 to 5 hospitals in consultation with the government of Tanzania, and these will be linked to hospitals in India.
Okay.
And I think there are two kinds of activities planned. One is general training facility, etc. Specialists from India will be giving kind of small lectures and have discussions and take questions and all that. And the second is consultation on complicated health treatment cases, which doctors will be able to consult with the specialist and perhaps be able to oversee the treatment. We did a small pilot project on this with Ocean Road Cancer Institute a few years back. And
how did that go?
I think it was good, but it is a little more specialized hospital in the field of cancer. So therefore, I think maybe the location was not ideal to reach out to larger population and to use. And I think there are certain kinds of health diseases which are also as important. So this small pilot project did not benefit lots of other needs because it was so focused on one particular sector. But I think so that is what is coming anyway. But I think there are 3-4 other things which are happening in the healthcare sector, and on the basis.
Highlight them. Yes.
Thank you. The priority for health sector was very clear of the current government, which we saw in the last 2-3 years back. So at that time we have started this training, which are government of India sponsored training programs in India. In the last 1 year, about 35 doctors have traveled to India, and including to Apollo Hospital, several of them, and to other places. And these are specialist training courses of 1 month or so they spend at the hospital, and they are just watching, learning, and participating in those programs. There are some part of it is classroom, part of it is exposure to the treatment, the way it is dealt with. So that's something which government is trying to do. I briefly mentioned about the cancer treatment facility at Bugando. And I think lots of private hospitals from India are also doing kind of this is a little more of private initiative directly with hospitals like Muhimbili and hospitals in other places. Like last week, there was a hospital called BLK.
BLK?
Yes.
Okay, where is this?
Yeah, they are based in Delhi.
Delhi, yes.
So they did about 4 or 5 kidney transplants over 4 years. So it was a team of 3 doctors from India and 3 or 4 doctors from Muhimbili Hospital. and they, I think, conducted a few, I think,
Yes.
complex surgeries for,
Wow.
and they have done those similar camps in the past.
Yes.
And same thing is happening in various areas. Sometimes things like knee replacement surgeries and hip replacement surgeries, etc. So that's a little more of initiative, but a lot is going on in that area, apart from doctors just going to India. We also did a little bit of medicines as a consignment, as just a small gesture from Government of India to help the efforts to MSD.
Okay.
Last month, I think Minister of Health, Mrs. Mwalimu, at that time attended the
Yes.
function.
Through the embassy or the High Commission, you've channeled in the agricultural sector.
About, I think this was about 2011-12, it was a 3-year project between the two governments, and this was a supply of tractors for the purpose of farm mechanization. So these Farm Track was the brand which got finally selected for this project, and I think about 1800 or so Indian tractors came here, and farm implements of various kinds for various crops also came as part of that project, and a workshop and assembly plant was also set up. It was a cooperation project with Suma JKT.
Suma JKT, yes.
And the feedback that we receive is these tractors, I think, penetrated across the country in various parts, and I think delivered excellent results.
Okay.
And after that, Farm Track, of course, is continuing to do. It is more like a private commercial venture now to supply tractors in the country.
So how do we, link more farmers, more businesses between Tanzania and India, and especially in the agricultural sector?
Changes in agriculture actually are slow and require a lot of sustained and focused efforts.
Absolutely.
I think what we did in 1960s, and India used to be a country suffering from famine very, very regularly in 40s and 50s. There are some very sad examples, but I think the Green Revolution in 60s, which was launched as a task force project, and for which there were institutions created and all that. So a lot has been achieved, and I think we as a net surplus supplier of food, with about 16% of the population lives in a country which is also very densely populated, but I think what you are saying is right in terms of India's achievements. I think we have lots of things which might be relevant as agricultural sector is developed in Tanzania, but as I said, it's not a very easy quick fix solution, otherwise it would have been fixed long back.
Absolutely.
But productivity is really a critical issue, in terms of from 1 acre land or 1 hectare land, how much you produce of different crops and how much can be achieved. I think there is a big gap in that area. And to fulfill that gap, there are issues of seeds, having more productive
all
seeds.
the way to, yes, absolutely.
The technical inputs also of farming, in terms of you can do multi-cropping, etc., and which soil suits which crop better and all that. So that technical advisory comes in, and of course market development is the other side of it.
A lot of produce from Tanzania used to find a ready market in India. There are quite a number of setbacks which emerged recently, but in terms of access to, and especially crops in India, how do we increase the access to Tanzanian produce in India? And of course vice versa.
But the challenge in agricultural commodities is really the cyclical nature of the market, because suddenly one crop becomes extremely popular and the market size is anyway fixed, and unfortunately these commodities are perishable. So there is, even within India we have lots of these problems from year to year, that in a particular year one crop there is overproduction and therefore leads to drop in prices and causes farmer distress and things like that. And I mean, Government of India has done a few things to really stabilize those things, but despite that, I think those challenges keep coming in from time to time, because farmers either take to a particular crop in a particular year, or else, in terms of markets also, global markets are also becoming more complex in terms of standards which have to be met for crop supply, etc. But there are 2-3 crops actually which also we believe there is a lot of potential. Sunflower seed, for example, and sunflower oil is a huge area of import for India. We try to get it from wherever it is available, etc.
Okay, so sunflower farmers, there is a ready market in India.
Absolutely,
Okay,
that's a reality. And also teak wood and is another thing which is already a part of exports from Tanzania to India. But it's a matter of how many times it can grow, because our imports are huge, and that's an area in which maybe a lot can be done.
It's been 150 years since the birth of Mahatma Gandhi.
Correct.
As an icon for India, and not only for India but for the world.
Yeah.
I still read a lot of his quotes, and
Yeah.
I truly appreciate his the contribution. Um, what does the embassy have? Do you have any plans for the commemoration? Do you have what is on the pipeline for the 150 years of Mahatma Gandhi?
Thank you very much for bringing it up, because I think it's a very important event for us. 150 years is a very, very long time.
It
And
is.
the way the human memory operates also, in
Yes.
fact, and his contributions have been huge, and I think they still have huge relevance for the current world. I think we launched this year-long celebration on 2nd October.
Okay,
Which
okay.
means earlier this month.
Yes.
And at University of Dar es Salaam there is a small bust of Mahatma Gandhi. We did a small function there, and they will culminate next year on
Okay.
2nd of October.
Okay, so it's a year commemoration from 2nd of October this year to 2nd of October next year.
Right.
Excellent. So we're not left behind.
And what
Okay.
we did was a small launch of a video, because there are multiple dimensions to Mahatma Gandhi. One is itself of the freedom struggle and his path of peace and non-violence, which he promoted, and that's why his birthday is celebrated as the International Day of Non-Violence, as declared by the United Nations.
Absolutely.
So that was one dimension of it. But I think the spiritual and the human component of or in his teachings, in his thoughts, in his vision, in his ideas is very, very important. And I
Yes.
think he believes that the human self and becoming a good human being is very, very critical, and
Absolutely.
automatically the society and the country will benefit. And he used to use a prayer every morning, and one of those prayers, actually we got it recorded by Miss Vanessa Madi, the famous
Vanessa there.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So she agreed kindly to also record it in the Indian language,
Okay.
and she had done it an outstanding job of it. And I think this video I will try to share with you.
Okay.
But that's
excellent.
basically trying to tell a human that how you become a better human, which is basically saying empathy about others
Absolutely.
in terms of helping people in their suffering, and avoiding arrogance, which is always likely to creep in when you are extending assistance to various people, etc. But that's the spiritual dimension of being good human beings. But his thoughts and ideas in the area of economic management, in terms of social reforms, in terms of environmental issues, etc., are huge. So we are planning to do lots of these small awareness things in various schools around Tanzania.
Okay.
And I personally am hoping to visit some of these schools. We
Okay,
will
very
run
good.
a few kind of peace marches and cycling events, tree plantation events to do with this ceremony, with the commemoration year. We are also planning to get an exhibition on Mahatma Gandhi maybe in December or so, and we'll share with you.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. The feel and the knowledge of Mahatma Gandhi would really wish to commemorate. So do we have a plan already for the commemoration? Can we see it probably from the cultural center?
Yeah.
Or is it if people want to know how best they can commemorate his life and legacy?
Yeah. So we will share that calendar with you, but some of these biggish events we will also publicize closer to the dates, because
Absolutely,
if
yes.
an event for March next year we share now, it may not have the right impact or something like that. But we
Okay.
have a calendar of whole year long thing. Almost every month we have an event or two around Mahatma Gandhi, and the first one is coming in on this Saturday, because cleanliness is something which was also a very important part of it, because he saw human health and all, and you can imagine India 100 years ago. And he laid a huge emphasis on people trying to be hygienic in their behavior and cleanliness and all. And he said every human, and I think some of this we are also aware of in Tanzania, the last Saturday I think of every month or something was declared
Yes.
as a day for. So
For
this
cleaning,
we are
absolutely.
doing one inspired by government of Tanzania's mission and Mahatma Gandhi's inspiration. So this Saturday we are in the city center doing some cleaning operation.
Okay.
And we have similar activities every month of that kind, etc.
Okay.
But I think it is important for people to be aware of some of those thoughts and use them
It's important because they need to pass to generation.
Yeah.
There are quite a number of Indian businessmen in Tanzania,
Yeah.
which is very good.
Yeah.
And their presence in Tanzania creates employment. They bring commodities, they bring exchange of knowledge. But specifically, I want to see if there's any focus by the High Commission in support of the current regime that promotes industrialization of Tanzania by 2025. Do you have any plans towards bringing in investors in the industry, different industries?
Yeah.
May not necessarily be in agricultural industries. There could be, medicine, industries, etc. Do you have any plans of attracting new FDIs into Tanzania, especially in the industry sector?
We have regular visitors from India who are coming. These are business people, these are people interested in investments into Tanzania, and they are, I think, traveling all the time, and we share information through also chambers in India, and to send it to as wide a spectrum of business people in India to really come and explore. And there are, I think, a few projects are moving well and they are moving towards implementation. A few are at the stage of exploration, but based on the strengths of Tanzania, I think like something like a sugar factory, for example, is a project which is kind of at a very advanced stage of planning. There is something being done.
That is by investors from India.
Yeah.
Okay, where will this be situated?
They are looking at a place between Morogoro and Dodoma.
Morogoro and Dodoma.
Yeah.
Somewhere there. Okay.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
There are pharmaceutical companies and all, because again it is driven by the priority set by government of Tanzania for itself and all that. And there are a few, at least couple of companies I know. They are looking at a joint venture, and I think M Pharmaceuticals is a joint venture between, I think, Mr. Mengi and a group from India.
Okay.
They're planning to set up a factory on the outskirts of Dar es Salaam towards Bagamoyo, which is also at an advanced stage of planning. And there's one more group which is negotiating either to do it as a 100% Indian venture or as a joint venture also for pharma products. Similar things are being done in areas like leather, in areas of cotton processing, in area of other agro commodities, etc. So I think there are quite a few of projects in different areas, and we hope that some of them will be realized and will lead to, I think, what they say, a win-win solution or a mutual beneficial projects in the country.
If there are also other interventions that the Air Commission is channeling directly to women groups or to women and the youth in Tanzania, because these industries, of course, will create employment for the youth, but are there any specific interventions or projects that the High Commission is looking on to supporting women, especially, and the youth in Tanzania?
Education and training is something which affects youth directly firsthand, and also there is, I mentioned a couple of programs which are being done in that area, and now with this telemedicine and tele-education program coming in, I think will be another opportunity for people to be exposed to various things, and investment is another dimension of it. What we did last year was actually two small things are relevant. One is a solar training center which was set up by something called Barefoot College from India in Zanzibar. So that is a place which is being used for training semi-literate women and other people in Zanzibar, and it is...
What exactly do they learn? Solar? It's called solar training?
Yeah, solar lighting systems.
Solar lighting systems. So are they taught how to create mini solar lights?
Absolutely.
Okay.
That's what is being done. So they are, because solar lantern you can give it to somebody, but then to maintain it and to really be able to repair it is really a challenge, because solar need is really in remote areas, and it's not in places close to urban centers where it can be addressed. So I think they are training about 100 women every year for the last 2-3 years. It was set up in 2015. And so they give solar lanterns and then enable people to maintain and manage them, etc., because the efficiency requires regular cleaning and replacement of parts. So that kind of training goes on, and they take their trainers to India a couple of times in a year for about a month-long course, and they conduct about a month and a half courses at Zanzibar. They also do a little bit of honeybee keeping, and also a little bit of stitching and tailoring skills, etc., are also done at the center to maximize the kind of learning for the people who come to study at the center.
And that is happening in Zanzibar.
Absolutely.
Excellent.
What we also did last year was, we have self-help groups in India, and there is a very famous group called SEWA. So this group is based in Ahmedabad in Western India, and that group does microfinancing. That group does helping in marketing of small scale products which can be made, and there are small food products which can be made. So they did a training course in India for a group of about 50 people from Tanzania, and after that they came here. They visited some of their facilities and tried to advise them, and I think the Honorable Vice President Ms. Samia Suluhu was very kind also to encourage and support, and she said we should really lead it to a particular product at some stage. So these were, I don't remember, these 3 or 4 kind of cooperative groups from Tanzania were identified for this project as partners of SEWA, and they started somewhere in Bagala and 1 or 2 other places, a small scale project of producing something and then trying to sell it, and maybe some financing to be made available for people doing kind of small scale or micro industry jobs at the place, and I think that's one example of what was done to kind of encourage and promote some of these things, because employment can never come from outside employment or industries.
Yes.
People have to do a little bit of
employment.
Absolutely.
Is this training documented so that other smaller groups which would wish to start microfinance or self-helping or self-sustaining groups can also be able to grab the knowledge and learn? As I'm sure why and what Mama Samia Suluhu liked the most is the fact that they are easy to manage, easy to maintain, and many people can adopt and grow them in Tanzania. Do you have any documentation that other groups can learn and we can share as part of
I think
helping?
this was done as a kind of one-off project at that stage, and part of the training, etc., the documentation was shared.
Yes.
But really, to take it on a slightly bigger scale, perhaps it needs to be taken up as a project in a more systematic manner to deliver even bigger results for the country. So we will be happy, of course, as and when opportunity arises, to do it in partnership between the two governments.
You were watching the Monday Agenda. I'm your host, Austin Makani. I truly thank you, Your Excellency, for the interview. Until next time, thank you for watching.